There's one number Shark doesn't put anywhere on the box for this thing, and once you know it, it changes how you'll actually use this product. Stick around, because it's not what you'd expect. Welcome to Sweep Gear, where we dig into the details other reviews skip so you can figure out exactly what fits your home before you spend $1. Here's a scene almost everyone with hard floors knows too well. Dinner just wrapped up, there are crumbs scattered across the kitchen tile, and somehow there's already a muddy paw print by the back door. You could grab the vacuum, then go dig out the mop and bucket, or you could just leave it and hope nobody notices. Hard floors are unforgiving that way. Every bit of dust and every footprint shows up instantly, and dealing with it usually means 2 separate tools and 2 separate trips around the kitchen. That's exactly the gap this product is trying to close, and it's why so many busy families, pet owners, and apartment dwellers keep circling back to this style of cleaner. The idea is simple. One lightweight tool that vacuums up the dry stuff and mops up the wet stuff without switching devices or hauling out a bucket. A lot of buyers assume that means it can fully replace their real vacuum. That's actually the most common mistake people make with this category, and it's one we'll circle back to because who this is genuinely built for might surprise you. Let's start with what it feels like to pick this thing up. It weighs a little over 3 pounds, which is legitimately light. Not light for a vacuum light, actually light. You can hold it in one hand, swing it under a low cabinet, or carry it up a flight of stairs without any real effort. Anyone who's ever felt worn out dragging around a bulkier stick vacuum will notice that difference right away. The core idea is that you're not using 2 separate pads or attachments. One disposable pad handles both jobs. You press and hold a trigger, the suction pulls in dry debris like crumbs, dust, and pet hair, and it locks that debris away inside the pad itself. Then when you hit a sticky spot or a spill, you switch to spray mode, and that same pad absorbs and scrubs it clean. It genuinely feels like using one tool instead of 2. And when you're done, you don't have to touch any of it. There's a button that ejects the pad straight into your trash can. If you've ever had to peel a soggy, hair-covered pad off a mop by hand, you already understand why that one detail gets so much praise from actual owners. It's a small thing, but it's the kind of small thing that makes people actually want to use a cleaning tool instead of avoiding it. Here's something worth pointing out that almost nobody talks about. Because this design skips the spinning brush roll most stick vacuums rely on, there's no classic hair wrap problem. If you've got pets that shed, or anyone in the house with long hair, you know that fighting tangled hair out of a brush roll is a chore all its own. This design sidesteps that entirely, and it's one of its most underrated advantages. So how does it actually perform on real messes? Feedback from people who've used it day to day is fairly consistent. It handles pet hair well, it's noticeably quiet for how much suction it puts out, and it does a solid job on everyday debris like crumbs and light dust. Where it's less forgiving is with larger scattered debris. The suction opening is fairly compact, so if something isn't directly in its path, it's more likely to get pushed rather than picked up. Not a deal breaker, but worth knowing before you expect it to behave like a full-size vacuum. Now, about that number I mentioned at the start, this thing runs on a cordless, rechargeable battery, which sounds like total freedom. No cord to trip over, no outlet to hunt down, but that freedom comes with a real limit. Real-world use puts you at roughly 10 to 15 minutes of runtime per charge. And here's the part that catches people off guard. Getting that battery back to full takes about 3.5 hours. Sit with that ratio for a second. 15 minutes of cleaning for 3.5 hours of waiting. If you're picturing this as your one tool for tackling an entire large home in a single session, that math just doesn't work out. But if you're picturing quick targeted cleanups, a spill here, crumbs there, a paw print by the door, that runtime is plenty. This isn't a marathon tool, it's a sprinter. Once you plan around short, frequent sessions instead of one big weekend clean, the battery stops feeling like a flaw and starts feeling like exactly what it was designed for. On the maintenance side, there's genuinely good news. There's no filter to pull out, rinse, and let dry before you can use it again. That whole ritual just doesn't exist with this design. You swap the pad and you're ready to go. For anyone who's forgotten to clean a filter and noticed their vacuum losing suction weeks later, skipping that chore entirely is a real relief. It also comes with automatic LED headlights built into the front, which sounds minor until you use it under a couch or behind a cabinet where the lighting is bad. Several long-term owners specifically called this their favorite feature because it's oddly satisfying to actually see what you're picking up instead of guessing. If you're weighing whether this is worth adding to your setup, I've left the current price and where to find it linked in the description below so you can compare it against whatever else you're considering. No honest review skips the drawbacks, so let's talk about the two that matter most. The first is the ongoing cost of the pads. Because there's no reusable filter or bin, each cleaning session eats into a pad, and those run around $1 a piece depending on where you buy them. For quick daily touch-ups, that's manageable. But if you've got a large area of hard flooring and you're using this heavily every day, that cost climbs faster than most buyers expect. One owner mentioned needing a fresh pad almost daily just to keep up with 600 square feet of tile, which ended up costing more than just running a separate vacuum and mop. Interestingly, some longtime owners have found a workaround Shark doesn't advertise. For lighter jobs, a single pad can often be reused 2 or 3 times before it needs to be tossed, which quietly stretches your money further. The second issue worth flagging is the sprayer. Over months of use, a recurring pattern shows up where the spray mechanism can clog or stop dispensing liquid altogether, sometimes even in units that are still fairly new. It's usually fixable with some cleaning and troubleshooting, but it's common enough to be worth knowing about up front rather than discovering it later. And because the battery is sealed inside the unit, once it eventually degrades with heavy use, you can't just swap it out yourself. At that point, you're typically looking at a replacement unit rather than a repair. So how does this stack up against the obvious alternatives? If you're currently using a basic dry sweeper, this is a meaningful upgrade. A sweeper just pushes debris around a pad with no real suction behind it, while this one actually pulls dirt and pet hair into a locked chamber. People who've made the switch consistently describe it as noticeably more effective at actually removing mess instead of just relocating it. On the other end, if you've got a bigger home with a mix of hard flooring and carpet, or you're doing heavy daily cleaning across a large space, it's worth knowing that pricier wet and dry systems exist that solve the runtime problem entirely, offering closer to half an hour of continuous use with reusable rollers instead of disposable pads. That convenience comes at a real cost, both in upfront price and in weight, since those units tend to be noticeably heavier and bulkier to store. It's a genuine trade-off, not an automatic upgrade. So who's this actually built for? If you live in an apartment or a smaller home with mostly hard flooring, if you've got pets and want something fast for daily hair and paw print cleanup, or if you already own a full-size vacuum and just want a lightweight tool for quick touch-ups between deep cleans, this is a smart, low-effort addition to your routine. It solves the exact daily hassle it was designed to solve without adding a new chore to your list. But if you're hoping for one machine to replace your only vacuum in a home with a lot of carpet, or you need something that can run continuously through a large space without stopping to recharge, this isn't going to get you there, and no amount of clever marketing changes that. In that case, treat this as a companion tool rather than a full replacement, or look at a larger wet and dry system built for bigger jobs. At its price point, this earns its spot as a smart, low-commitment way to make hard floor cleanup faster and less annoying as long as you go in understanding exactly what it is. Not a full vacuum replacement, not a deep cleaning machine, but a genuinely convenient tool for the small, everyday messes that used to require dragging out 2 separate tools. If you've got hard floors and you're on the fence about something like this, drop a comment and let me know whether you're dealing with a small apartment setup or a bigger home with mixed flooring, since that honestly changes the answer. And if this helped you figure out whether it's the right fit, a like helps this channel keep making honest, research-backed reviews like this one. Subscribe to Sweep Gear if you want more straight talk buying guides before your next purchase. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.